But now we have a second edition of the Artist in Residence. The first edition took place during the festival. We hosted 3 artists before the festival, because the whole Artist in Residency program is for 1 week. So 6 artists which were selected in the way of open call were invited for the Artist in Residence to choose 1 of 2 terms. The second one is just right now, and I'm happy to introduce you our 3 great artists, Carla Kracht from Spain. I'm sorry, our surname.
Wait, just wait.
But you are from Taiwan.
Yeah, from Taiwan.
Taiwan. That's easier to remember.
Yeah, and Dara from UK.
Okay.
Actually, yeah,
Okay, from UK. Okay.
I'm not.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
I just get
I
to know
live
that
in-
you are Persian.
Yeah,
and
I'm
you-
from Iran. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, from Iran.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah, but I've lived in the UK for like 10 years.
Yeah,
now.
okay.
Uh-huh.
And you can vote in the UK. That's important.
Well, yeah.
So I just try to check it out whether you are surprised that you are coming for the regular class and you have no, not at all. If you have any doubt, any question, please ask, because that's a really great opportunity to have them here. In fact, we will talk about different elements of electroacoustic music, which is also the function of electroacoustic music. So the function of electroacoustic music is not only in autonomic, independent works, but also as a material for other arts, like video art. And in fact, the residences are around extended video art form, which is immersive video. So that would be perhaps part of our presentation. But you are not working, or you are already working in Hebra. You are working on Hebra. Okay.
We are,
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the Gallery 360, which is located in Hebra +1 on Kazimierz district. I don't know, are you familiar with the place? There is a system built of 10 projectors, and this is the main focus actually of the artists of this residency. So they have time and access to the space to work with the system and create a dedicated project, which will be presented on the 6th of December, this Friday.
Yeah, there's a concert. Come.
Yeah, definitely. The entrance is free, and it seems like it will be really interesting, because each of the project is totally different. They will tell you in a moment. They present you some details about it. What's going to be visible on Friday. So I'll just give you the program. Have a look on that. What's there?
The presentation goes live on the website of the studio. So I think I will find a very nice opportunity to my students to keep it, the camera and the iPad, and you will be in charge of this, okay? So instead of, okay, you can keep it. Just turn it. Okay.
Okay.
Where we can find the name?
I will show you. SME. We can write it here.
Because there are some people interested in this meeting today. They want to
Just send the urgent message, you know.
Oh, great.
This is the website of our SME, Studio Muzyki Elektroakustycznej. AMUS, Akademia Muzyczna, Kraków.pl. Okay? That's the website. Usually we stream whatever it's, so all our special lectures and activity. The festival had its own web stream on the website of the festival, but we have many lectures done here, so they were
That's
on the
great,
same
because
web.
not everyone can be at the moment with us, and they were interested in this meeting also. So yeah, we can start. Who wants to be the first?
I can talk. Oh, you want to? Okay.
You can go.
I just said.
Access to media.
I'm fine. I don't mind. I need the adapter. I just have to find it.
If you want to start, I don't mind that.
I can go first, second.
When you sit like this, then you will be aside to do
Yeah, and I can move my
Yes,
legs.
exactly.
Okay. tell me if I'm talking too much or too long.
Okay, we'll stop you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Just say like, just take the cable.
Two very difficult questions, you know. That's the story.
Okay.
Yeah. No i jak pan będzie zmęczony, to może pan oddać następnej osobie. Ja za chwileczkę puszczę listę obecności, także wszystko
I'm
będzie
going
się
to be okay for the whole time.
Just don't know if you're tired to go leave it to someone else.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, myślę, że to będzie najlepsze. Tutaj, wie pan co, ja to przed chwilą odkryłem, bo to jest iPad nieużywany w studiu, ale właśnie go przed chwileczką mu zainstalowałem ten. Tu trzeba będzie chyba podłożyć coś. Na przykład te 3 programy możemy złożyć. O, prawda? If you hold them enough strong, so it should be okay.
Or maybe we
Is
can...
there lights up here? Oh,
Nie za bardzo jeszcze, co? No, to trzeba
On the streaming.
oh yeah, maybe.
Nie, zróbmy tak, żeby się może...
It's
It's
very
too,
dark, no?
it's
Yeah,
too dark.
it's too
It's too dark.
dark.
Yes, you can put it
Yeah.
half of this. Or just opposite, because then, yes, then it's
Okay, yeah.
Yeah?
a little bit better.
Well, if you want to see the good quality video, you have to come on Friday.
Ciężko się powstrzymać czasem.
Albo takie. Żeby nie
Nie
tracić.
za dużo.
Nie, teraz jest okej?
Ryzykowne.
A czy można przesunąć, wtedy spadnie na stół? Nie? To trzeba sprawdzić. Nie spada. Teraz spada, okej. Jest okej, jest okej.
Tak?
Tak?
O,
Łapie?
idealny kadr, tak.
No. Fully professional.
Yeah, I know.
Now the list. Today is 4. Podstawy muzyki elektroakustycznej. I lecimy. You don't need to be on the list. If you want. We can.
To żeby się wpisać.
Are you doing attendance?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
For statistics.
There's a chair there.
Yeah, here. There's one that you will change it.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can start.
Yes?
I will check in.
Okay. I wait for you.
No, you
I
can
start?
start.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm Carla. I live in Spain. I'm from Germany originally, and I work mainly with I mix the physical analog with the technology. So maybe I will first talk a little bit about what I've been doing before, and then I talk about the work I will present this Friday. I was getting really bored of. I'm from the visual arts. I like to do the animation. I do sculptures. I do a lot of video projection, etc. And I got really. I don't have the patience to make an animation film. I always had this like I want to be more spontaneous with things. So also I was working a lot with dancers and stage productions. So in the rehearsals I found I don't have the flexibility with my video projections as the dancer has. The dancer just turns the other way around and I have to render a video and it takes another half an hour to be able to continue playing. So I said I want to change this and I started working with a live camera years ago. I started working with the live camera, making a lot of little film sets, like if they were animation film sets, and this is a process for more than 10 years I've been working on this kind of format. It's changed from very small box to like occupying a whole stage. And I also you can see the little elements. It's taking the video and projection in real time, and then mixing with different animations also. So there's a lot of sets and wars and things going on here. I just show a little bit more images. You can see, if you want me to go slower with the images or have questions to any of the images or things I say, just stop me. So yeah, it's like doing some fun mechanisms which maybe you can make them in animation on the computer or with the stop motion, but we do it with I do it with a live camera, so you just have things moving around. And playing with shadow projections also. So these are all small, film sets. And they are the only movement that comes from the whole from this work is through the camera. The camera is the only thing that moves. Everything else is very static because they don't move. As you can see here. Maybe I have a video here. Is it? Yeah. Well, the shadows move because we move them.
You gonna connect your sound then?
Ah! Thank you. Should be a music place. No, we don't have sound. So this is the way I work with the camera and then projecting.
Your sound here?
No sound.
It's supposed to be?
Yes.
No, it's muted.
Ah,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're busy.
So I see that you have the technical problem.
That's right. Yes, I have the technical problem not to connect the mini
Oh, you've been watching?
So you see there's like
Been watching it, eh?
This is
uh, it's like lots of different layers between the real shadows and the real figures and some pre-recorded material and the filmed material. There's a lot of layers in this work, and it's getting more and more. I also do interactive installations. I work with a stage director often, and we did some of these works together. And this is an interactive installation where you have again a lot of small figures and objects, but you work with sensors. So you would go and light sensors. So you would go with a flashlight around this world, and there's little points where you can hold on, and then the story changes. Not quite difficult. So these are close-ups of the same installation, and now we have a technical problem. Maybe it's my output. This is a video again, so you can see a little bit. No?
No to krzesełka trzeba wziąć. A bo tu są jeszcze w środku. Tam.
I think I have a technical problem with my video. It's not working.
Ustawione rząd zerowy.
Go back maybe? Is the video not playing?
No. I don't use the presentation software normally. So
Oh, there.
yeah, now it's on. So they are all small, all small dictators and people inside this world. that's I've been working on for quite a while. It's called Ghost in the Wall, and it's a lot of it's like mixing a lot of different things. It's also it's taken shape in installation, like a loophole box. You know, you make a box and you look inside, and you have little sets. It's been performance, different size performance. Here we'll make a performance of 360 degrees. And it's mainly like I started working on this in Taiwan quite a few years ago, and it's on an investigation about the ghosts, because in Taiwan I think Wei will be much better to explain about this, but there's a tradition about the ghost which is quite amazing. You have the ghost month in summer, where the gates open so the ghosts can come and join the living, the real, like the fleshy people, and they have their party. So everything really turns around the ghosts in this month. So they make food for them, and there's a big tables everywhere, and ghosts can have dinner. If you want to have the leftovers, you just get like the whole avocado without a soul. They gave it to me. They said, "Do you want to have a avocado?"
Yeah, it's like if you eat that, you will be blessed. Like, some people will protect you.
Yes.
If you eat that
Okay.
after the ceremony.
I did too. They asked me, "Do you mind to have a avocado that the ghosts already eat?" And I said, "It looks normal. What did they eat? Ah, they eat only the soul." I said, "Okay, no, I'll try. Is it bad? No, no."
Yeah, but
Okay, it's good.
in my parents, they say that the good brother, we call it like ghost, we call it good brothers.
Okay.
They will smell the food to
Okay.
eat. So they are not literally eat the food, it's just like smell it,
Okay.
and they will be like food and go back to their home
Their home.
in the end of the
Nice.
July.
Okay. Yeah.
But there are different traditions in different parts of the world, but
Yeah.
that's quite interesting to
there's-
compare. Have you been to South America? Because
Yes.
okay,
Sure. So this
is another
project,
story.
I continued. You will see, if you come and see it, you will see some elements. I think less from the Taiwanese, because there I was more abstract. But from the South America, you will see some images, definitely, because there the life and death are the same. They just go together. There's not even necessity to open a door.
Because the west coast of South America, they're really interconnected with also China
Yeah.
and the other. That was a big discovery by me many years ago.
Okay.
Animism, huh?
Yes, exactly.
So this was like the investigation more about the spirits and ghosts, and it's such a big field that I will never say this is a finished project, because it continues breathing and adding things. Also,
I'm not sure whether this is a correct moment to ask you, because since we are working with the electroacoustic media, the question is about the soundtrack.
yeah. The
example.
sound part, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, the sound part, I must admit I always work with musicians, because I myself am not a musician. I used to play the violin when I was a child, and since then I never dared to touch it again. It's always with me, but I open it and look at it, and I respect it, but I don't use it. So when I work with the music, I do have two musicians I work with, and one of them is called Ilya Meyer. He works a lot with he works a lot. He makes a lot of how would you say layers of sound. So he would really build up landscapes. So you can start at the seaside, and suddenly you come to a really high mountain. And he works a lot with I don't know exactly how he works, because he's the musician, I'm not. But he works a lot with organic material also. So he would record sounds or get sounds from some internet. From some films or whatever.
The current word is field recording, perhaps, because that's what we are using many times.
Right. So you will see there's a lot of layers in his work. And the other musician is called Make Lee, and he's more a producer. He's hip hop musician originally, but that was in the 1990s, and now he's working electronic music also within his studio. And the same. He has a lot of different layers, but his music is more like songs, I would say, small pieces. Ilya would make like he could make a 2-hour piece. Where you go traveling through a sound landscape, and the other one is more like more descriptive in a way. I'm sorry, I cannot talk much more about the sound.
Okay.
We can call them.
Just to find out.
But that's for me.
That's like a
just-
composed musician and synchronized with the movie. That's
Yeah.
with the material. That's why.
Yeah, that's super
we have this
important
concern,
for me.
you know,
The
always,
sound
like-
is something specific. So both musicians would compose the music with me. Like I would send them images, they would send me music, and because normally we don't. I work a lot in international residencies, so I always have them very far away. So we never sit together and work next
So
to
the
each
way I
other.
understand it, there is a video material there
Yeah.
that's fixed and acts as a cue point, right? And the soundtrack is fixed
yes.
to that,
Yes.
and you play on top of it, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Usually, if we ever, like with Ilya, sometimes we do live, then it's much more dynamic because then we can react
Manipulate
to each other.
with this.
Exactly. Because
Yeah.
now here I will work towards a soundtrack. That's it. And the moment the song finishes, I finish this scene. It's not the ideal situation. I prefer to have like this interaction with the musicians, so you can really see a little bit more, or let's finish this now. Yeah.
Nice ghost.
Yeah, there's a lot of ghosts. In this, it's black. Yeah, maybe I will put off the sound at the moment. I know it's about sound, but then we have the. Is it mostly? Yeah. So I work a lot with the shadows. In this project also, with the ghosts, I had this necessity to make them move, these little figures, because they only moved because of the camera. And so I started playing around with really strange mechanisms. I don't have many of them here, but to make these little figures move, that it's not only the camera. And this is another investigation part of my work, which
You can use them as a drawing machine.
no, I
So-
put them. Look, I make the figures themselves move. So this little automata basically.
So you don't have the sound from this.
I put it off so I can. Yes, I know you want it.
Sounds important, yes.
So it's really strange, but even just like the small movements are important.
Wiesz, dla nas są to istotne rzeczy, skąd jest źródło dźwięku, jak można tworzyć, wiesz, iluzje naturalnymi źródłami, niekoniecznie nagranymi, wiesz, z osobą zupełnie. Ja teraz dokładnie właśnie myślę, co to jest projekt. Wychodzi każdy raz, co taki temat dźwięku, Anet Krebs, która zapraszała się zalegająca wzdłuż
Do you want me to show more images of this, and then we can, so you get thirsty to come on Friday
No,
to see?
the only story is to share the time with
Okay.
your colleagues.
Yeah,
that's,
but-
that's
Okay.
I think we are okay.
Okay.
We are okay. Yes.
Okay. Let's replug everything.
In fact, you know, I have another class at 4:00,
Okay. Let's
which is
rush.
no,
Sorry.
don't worry,
Yeah,
but don't worry. It's here. There are 3 composers,
Okay.
so we can stay longer
Okay.
with them.
Okay.
No problem. Another
I-
class is called experimental sound. So
Nice.
that's
Can I connect to the internet?
yeah, you can get it.
Which
Yeah,
one is-
AM Akademia
I
Muzyczna.
give you the.
Connect. Then I will give you the. Oh,
Should I go? I'll go
I didn't want to stop you.
This is mine.
Okay, that's usually.
And do I have to like log in or anything with it?
Yes, SME, the name of the studio.
Wait.
You could present
Teraz
Is it
podaję Państwu, ale to już
feel like
wam podawałem
I'm
już
taking away
No,
a
it's
lot
okay.
of
ten
time.
tajny
Yeah.
dostęp do
Yeah.
sieci studia, czy nie podawałem?
I will show just a few more images. I can
To wam
talk a lot
podam
more,
teraz, bo
but
to
about
od
music
czasu
not so
konferencji w
much.
październiku
So
mamy
maybe I
tą
think they
linię
have more to
osobną,
share,
ale
but
tylko
you're
ona jest
right.
tylko tutaj. To jest SME i SME is login, SME.
The login page doesn't come up. Is this one of these?
You
like,
have to refresh.
I did.
It's easy to remember.
Oh,
SME,
I think
Okay.
it's because I have the.
a password to 2019.
Okay. It doesn't matter. I wanted to show some other
Okay,
clips, but
okay.
I can.
No, I can show you. I can help you with this.
Yeah, let's connect.
Let's connect. Why not?
Thank you, Carla.
Yes.
All right, there it is.
And of course, if any of you has some questions, feel free to ask. Of course, this project is the best to see on Friday. It's very poetic. And for this particular performance this Friday, what kind of music what kind of sounds do you have?
I will have the sounds of. I will use the sounds I have from the musician I've been working with.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And it's really nice because one of them is quite because this project it continues growing somehow. Every time I present it, it's a totally different form. Now it's 360 degrees. And I added sound in May with another musician, with Ilya. He was not participating in this project before. And every place I went to, they didn't have a proper sound system. So I was suffering a lot because his music needs a proper sound system because you cannot hear anything. And now it's the first time I can really listen to his music the real way. So it's,
Yeah, on Friday there will be good sound system.
yes.
And how many ghosts and monsters are taking part?
I don't know. I never count them, and I get these questions quite a lot, but I never count them. But I realize when one is missing, I know. Yes, everybody is important. There's a lot of them in the backstage. They never come out,
All right.
or hardly ever.
So you decide on the place, which one is joining the team, which one stays for
Yes.
later.
And often I add new stuff. Yeah, I still have to look from here. Yes.
Looking forward.
Yeah.
It's really interesting project.
It's like this organic monster. It's becoming it's a ghost in itself. Yeah.
And this is so cool that actually it was not intentional
Yeah.
that you met because
Yeah.
your work is inspired by the Taiwanese tradition.
Totally.
And they
Yeah.
come from Taiwan. We didn't put it in, even that first wanted to be on the first term. Right?
Yes.
Changed it.
Yeah.
So
Good.
it should be like that. The ghost probably.
Yeah, they were searching
Intentional.
you.
Yeah.
We are like doing about the ghost in Taiwan, and I'm doing about the ghost like architecture ghost.
Yeah, also in Taiwan, no?
Yeah,
Yeah.
also in Taiwan. And
Because
also-
there's a lot of architecture ghosts, no?
yeah, it's like spirit from something architecture
Yeah.
already killed down.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Wow, nice, interesting. I'm really curious about
yeah, we all have like some connection.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, this is very interesting trio.
Yeah.
I must say. It happens to have this connection. It's really interesting what happened this edition.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Udało się?
Tak, no przez moją komórkę.
Aha.
Tak polecimy.
All right. Right. Hi everyone. It's weird to sit down. I usually stand up when I talk, but I don't think I have a choice. My name is Dara. I will.
You can
sit down.
control the height, you know. You can go down or
Yeah, just
and around.
My name is Dara. I'll try not to break anything here. I'm a composer and audiovisual artist. So I work. Okay, I'm gonna give you some background first, and I'm gonna talk about. I'm gonna show you some excerpts from the piece that I'm working on currently, and then I'm gonna talk a little bit about procedural generation and how this relates to composition in particular. I'm an audiovisual artist, but I come from a music background. I did sound design, and I'm really interested how you can apply a particular type of technology to create generative compositions. So I'll talk a little bit about that at the end as well, if there is time.
Generative is like algorithmic?
Yes.
Because this is also...
Yes, so I'll talk about that a little
okay.
bit. Also, I'll talk about a little bit basic systems. So I work at this place, University of Edinburgh, the Reed School of Music. I went there in 2013, I think, or 12, to do a master's in sound design. And during my time as a sound designer, I was introduced to these ideas of gesture, tension, movement in sound and music, and I found it. I was making a lot of like abstract compositions, but I found that people had really difficulty understanding them. The structure became too complex for people to follow. And I was finding or trying to find ways that I can try to make abstract music more understandable by people that are not really necessarily exposed to it. So visuals were something that I got introduced to during the sound design project. I was really interested in how you can make complex music more understandable by visualizing it. So I started working with shaders and generative systems, and some of the things that came up when working in these sort of systems were things like nonlinear compositions. And by nonlinearity, I mean how you can travel through the composition back and forth, and also the systems that go into making it. So I was really interested in complex dynamical systems, concatenative synthesis. I think I spelled
Jak
that.
Państwo czujecie się bardzo już zagubieni, na przykład w jakiejś tematyce, to proponuję
Shaders
Państwu
and
zadawać
procedural
pytania,
generation.
bo to jest jedyny sposób na to, żeby... I just remind that if somebody gets problem to understand, to follow, you can ask questions, because I think this is the best. Sometimes we are diving too much off like this. Okay?
We try to a tripod for that.
I know, but that was like a last. We are not planning everything.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
That's good.
No.
Living in the
We are
moment.
more doing than planning. Okay. No, this is like a beautiful case.
Yeah, it is.
On the edge, you
I'll
know.
be honest, yeah. I love it. So yeah, I was interested in complex dynamical systems. I actually don't know about your background. I don't know what
Mainly
kind of stuff you guys do. Do you do
instrumental
like
and
algorithms?
vocalist?
Okay. All right. So when you do
Performance
electroacoustic music, you're
singers.
not using computational systems, are you?
No, we are doing the regular course of electroacoustic music. The subject is called
electroacoustic.
Basics of Electroacoustic Music.
Okay, cool.
To be more clear.
Cool.
Next semester they will build up an ensemble
Okay.
from us, and we'll deal with the electronics. The
Wow.
first semester usually is more theory. We have conference, we have festival, and then the series of lectures. So
Okay.
and you are part of this now.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, these are some of the things that really came up when I was working with visuals. Not only they were allowing me to visualize abstract sound, but they also gave me new ways to think about composition, think about structure. And a really important thing that popped up was concatenative synthesis. I don't know if you've heard about it. So
Never.
So concatenative synthesis is a method of chopping up sounds into lots of tiny units and then rearranging them based on deep Markov models. This is a corpus-based approach, which allows you to do really complex structures with just a basic language. I'll show you an example of that, or like just a graph tree of how this actually works. Another thing I was really interested in was shaders. And shaders are a way of like doing parallel computation and trying to calculate graphics in real time. Particularly, they're used in games a lot. So all this kind of led me to game technology and the sort of like approaches that they use to generate complex levels, complex logic, and behaviors in games. So I try to adopt some of these technologies and make abstract audiovisual compositions. That kind of is in in a nutshell what I do. So I think now I will play a little bit of a clip, just a screen recording. So the compositions I do, they're all real time. So I make real time audiovisual systems. Everything happens in real time, and I just record the screen pretty much. So what you see is just a screen recording of a game project that I'm working on. So my PhD, basically, after my master's, I started a PhD at the university, and I've been doing it for the last 4 years. And it's part-time, so it's like a 6-year project. And I'm near the end, but the project involves this, I'm doing a composition PhD, which I think is kind of rare because I don't write a single line of thesis, nothing. I don't write at all, so I make a portfolio. So my PhD is fully practical, which is really valuable for me to be able to make a really a rich array of work. So that's been quite useful, and I'm making a game pretty much, a sort of like abstract virtual world where you can explore and do audiovisual composition. So I'll play. Maybe I'll play a few clips of some of the previous projects and a very short clip from this one. I think, yeah. This one. I don't know how loud it's going to be. So this is a project that I networked 3 different computers and did a synchronization over network to play from 3 different displays. Wait, I think my sound is going to stay. Play a little clip from that I'm going to play on Friday. This is a piece I've been working on for the last year. I'm during my time here, I'm basically just going to make it work for this projection system that they have at Harvard.
Can I have
Oh.
a question?
Please.
You said you make it all in real time, yeah?
Mhm.
And you make the image and the sound both in real time, yeah?
Yeah, so with the sound, there's a combination of real-time synthesis as well as concatenative synthesis. With concatenative synthesis, I have like really small samples, like grains. So like I have thousands of chopped up samples that I algorithmically rearrange and layer. So there's a lot of layering going on, you know, like, so you have maybe sometimes 5,000 sounds being played at the same time. Because I work in a game engine, I can assign each sound to a sound emitter. So you have very complex soundscapes forming.
Yes, but is the sound connected with the image, or you make it simultaneously but separately?
In this project, it's a little bit different, but the last one that I showed you, it was done kind of a one-way approach when I would do FFT analysis on the sound, and then drive the visuals. But now the way I work is that I basically do compute shaders. So I do simulation calculations using shaders in a game engine. Then I generate the visuals using these vector fields, and the vector fields drive the sound, and then the sound gets analyzed using FFT, and then the analysis drives the visuals back, and there's a feedback kind
So
of
it's like
system.
an image made by sound, or like?
The sound is made by the image, and then the image is driven by the sound, and then the sound is restructured by the. So yeah, there's a sort of like there's a four kind of loops between them. So this one is using that. I'll just skip through it. It's a bit long. Stop it there. You can come to see it on Friday. So I'm going to talk a bit about how I create the structures and simple methods of really creating complexity without handwriting or hard coding variables. So let me go back to this thing. So yeah, I use procedural generation for these reasons. You know, you can create complexity, unpredictability, as well as recursion. You know, when you have something that's recursive, it doesn't make sense to do it manually because, I mean, you know, in the past you would have done that, but you can create really complex behavior with just a few generations of following a basic rule, and I'll show you how. So some of the things I use are called grammars. I don't know if you know about generative grammars. So these are basically a way of...
Not yet.
So you start with the alphabet. So you have A and B, for instance, and you have a set of rules. A becomes BA and B becomes A. And then you have an axiom. You start with something and you apply the rule. That's it. You start with A, and then if you get to a letter, you convert it to based on the rule, and then you continue, and then you keep adding this, and you would get something like that. You know, A becomes BA, and then you can see after 8 generations, we have something like that. And these grammars are useful in lots of different applications. Particularly, have you heard about L systems? So L systems are used for generating vegetation. So here you can see how we can generate a tree from using this grammar, and I'll show you the output of this. So basically here we have this simple rule, and you can see after each generation, I'm just printing the output of the thing as the strings. You can see after just 4 generations, we're getting such a complex pattern. And all we're doing, we're converting F to that. And we keep repeating it. And those brackets and minus and plus are just ways of translating. So when you get to a bracket, you move to the right and so on. So you can apply this to anything. And these are used particularly in music. We had a professor called Michael Edwards at the University of Edinburgh. He created this software called Slippery Chicken for electroacoustic composition, and he was using a lot of L systems and grammars. What I use are a slightly more complex version of grammars, and those are graph grammars. With graph grammars, you basically have the same idea, but you apply it to graphs. You start with the graph, and then you follow your rule basically and make a complex structure. So this thing on the right here is something I created in the first year of my PhD. This was a journey of my composition. It's kind of like a score basically. You have a start, you can go to many different places, and not everything is connected, and not everything is both 2 ways. Some places you can just only go one way, and vice versa. So these systems are actually used for generating cave systems in games, and you can imagine when you're generating like massive caves and dungeons, no one is sitting there and actually designing the whole thing by hand, you know, but you need the dungeon to have an exit and an entrance, and sometimes you have a dead end, but then you can create really complex geometry using these things. And things like cellular automata also are kind of used in the same way.
Self-generated.
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
Pity that you found it so fast.
Yeah. So I think that I will stop here actually. What happened? Or I'll stop here. I think this should give you a flavor of the kind of stuff you can do with compositions, with algorithmic composition, and you can probably explore these yourself. I think there are lots of you don't always have to invent something. A lot of people ask me like, what tool do you use? What approach do you use? I think as programmers or as composers, I think your time should be mainly spent thinking before you start to hit the keyboard, before you start to do anything, before you start to write anything. The concepts are quite important, and the architecture is very important. So and you don't always have to reinvent something or create something new, but you can adapt things that have already existed. Like proper engineering work, for instance, in my case, in the gaming industry, and and use them to create sort of like new ways of crossing boundaries between various cultural and art forms. So those are my details. You can email me, look at the stuff there, and I think I'll stop. If you have any questions, you can ask them.
So remember, you are all invited to the event on Friday at 7 o'clock at Havre, and if you were not there, have no chance to visit the place is really a very place, and you will get the very special opportunity to see the system, this immersive video system, because usually during the audio art we didn't use it quite intensively, but there were several events connected with the system. But artist in residence of Patchlab is mainly to run the machine, to run the instrument, which is there.
Yeah.
So then you have the opportunity also to see their work, but also to see this special immersive video system, which is the only one in Krakow like this. It's specially designed and invented.
Yeah, we tested
several years ago.
the sound system today as well. Sounds decent. Sounds good. Cool. All right, thanks guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. No. Are you
Hey,
swapping
that's
places?
I'm moving from one to another one.
Nice that you have the sound. Been here for a while.
So, dzień dobry. Hello everyone. My name is Huang Weixuan, and you can call me Wei. I'm a 3D artist and also projection designer based in Taipei, Taiwan. And so I doing a lot of different things in different category. Like if I have some opportunity to working in a theater, so I'm a projection designer work with the director. So sometimes I also work in the commercial concert that doing like LED, like visual design, and work with the laser. And sometimes that I have my own project that is all focused on the visual, like 3D scanning and photogrammetry. So I just like doing a lot of different things and trying to find some possibility to display the image or to find a different media. Yeah, so in the beginning that I have an opportunity to go to the special theater that they use a very old technique called paper ghost to making the projection reflect on the transparent screen. So that is interesting because for me, ghost pepper. So I major in 3D animation, so we all take care of the screen into the like HD, something like that. But somehow you have to convert it into the stage and also combine with the audience and actors and the script is all we have to work together. So it's kind of like flip my thinking about the image and all the show. So in the show I'm the projection designer and also animator. So I doing the like model scan to two old actors, and that is the starting point I try to do in the 3D scan. Yeah, so talking about the photogrammetry, that the basic idea is very simple, that I take a lot of photos to one things or the one person or one space that making let the computer to making the align and the compute to make it into the 3D data. So something like this. So it's a sample from my another project that I take like 300 photos to one space and make it into a 3D data.
Are you using reality capture?
Yes, yes. So there's a lot of software that you can find, like the open source one. They are all the same. It's just like the different speed about rendering.
How much is it connected with the basic of animation? That's one question, simple question. And then how much when you presented the first part, is it any link with the holography?
Yeah, it's a bit like
also the-
holographic, but not real one.
Okay.
It's like the trick
Okay.
to fake the audience,
Uh-huh.
and that part. I mean that.
So when you show this series of snapshots in the order in the series, it's like a basic question about the if you play them, so that perhaps they will look like a basic
Yeah.
short
Animation.
movies, like a basic animation concept.
Yeah,
We're not working quite intensively here, but
So it's like you have to follow the rule to surrounding the object, then you got a lot of
okay.
pictures.
Uh-huh.
And if you see this computer and I see this computer, we have two different distance to view the different side. And what is the computer doing is try to align the two different pictures and calculate the distance. So he can find some like the data from the surface of the object. So they just do a lot of things to each other.
Okay, so
Yeah.
then it's like 3D.
Yeah, it's 3D.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's about the skill, like photogrammetry. So what I use the skill to do to work or produce the thing. So this is a picture that in my like hometown. It's a neighbor like very close to my home, and when I was childhood, I cannot go inside because they have the wall in like a closed neighborhood. So somehow the door opens, I can go inside because they are gonna tear down all the building. So I just have a very like directly thought, okay, so maybe I can take some picture because they are already gone. So I just take a lot of photos and the sequence about the recording, and that's all. But after like years, I made the skill that what I'm talking about the photogrammetry. So I thinking that if I have a footage and the architecture is gone, so why not I just put the footage to the software to make the spirit of the architecture to pop out in the virtual world. So I used the footage. So I got the like not real data, but somehow it's come from the picture of the architecture. Yeah. So
You only working with point clouds, or do you actually generate meshes as well?
I only work with the point cloud.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can see there's a lot of dots on the architecture. Each of the dots it represent the XYZ data from the 3D world, and also the color.
So you work with point cloud because it looks cooler.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
more cool.
Looks very cool.
Yeah. So when I got this data, so I'm just discovering that where is the like, special venue or the special way to re-experience it. So I apply the residency and I go to I have the opportunity to show the real architecture, like like the real size architecture data from the Dome Theater. It's like in the planetary. Yeah. So.
can't go to HDMI.
Yeah.
You have to change it to the.
So I just try to make the data can go through our study in the dome. And that is quite interesting because when you're surrounded by the image, it's totally different with the 2D. Yeah. So back to the.
So is that like a 360 recording of?
Yeah, it's
It's inside the venue.
but it's not like real 180. It's like a little bit.
Some of those particles feel like they're actually going past the camera, are they?
No, it's not. It's like the fake 3D.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, so it's
Alright,
just like surface.
alright.
So, and I also working with my own project that is about residency, and I capture some rules in Taiwan, but the rule they have a bit different history because it used to be in the Japanese colonial period. It used to be the like institution, and in the end it becomes Air Force. It's all about because in Taiwan we have a long like complicated history, so the architecture always have different shape with different people. They are the boss, so they kind of like change the architecture. So I got the opportunity to go there to do the research. So I realized that the architecture have a lot of different layers. So that's why I try to scan it. So that place is forbidden for any of the people, but because we are doing the research there, so we can go inside. So I make all the space like that, like it's not all, it's like most of the room to capture that into the data. Yeah. So somehow that you can realize, okay, some construction is from Japan, but you can see the map on the wall. It's from the Republic of China because they are Air Force headquarters before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I just use the data and put it into the virtual reality to make people can go inside because that is forbidden.
Mhm.
Yeah. In the end of the working progress. So talking about the residency project. Yeah. So I already have some footage. It's in Taiwan. I captured that. So and I also did the space 3D scanning in Krakow. And I will do like from Taipei to Krakow to make some like architecture data combination. And also I will try to use the immersive environments because that is very rare opportunity to work with that environment. Yeah. So, and about the sound, I already record some like soundscape, like daily sound in Taiwan, like people talking in a restaurant or like the temple, the sound from the temple to make it into my performance. Yeah.
Cool.
And what about Krakow? Did you record also some sounds in Krakow?
Not yet, but I have to. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wait,
Yeah.
So all those are just using photogrammetry. Isn't it like quite hard to do like spaces with photogrammetry because you have to take so many pictures?
Yeah, sometimes that you have to take a lot of pictures, but sometimes that you can. Yeah, Google have some project that you can collect a lot of image from different tourists to film in the
I see.
architecture.
I see.
So it's the same way. as long as the object or the building is the same. Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see you all
On Friday.
On Friday. Yeah.
We also look forward to see all of these free projects.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Dziękuję.
Dziękujemy.
Thank you to all.
And we also would like to thank you, Professor, for
My pleasure.
For having
it's
us.
great to be guest here.
It was a good
Good.
decision.
Good effort.
So, do you have any questions? Just to, because there was mainly like an introduction to the Friday evening concert, but as I said, also the introduction and reminder about the place, which is quite unique in Kraków, and it's used for really different projects now. It starts to be a very special perspective of everything. That you can use just like multiplying the basic image, which we did several times, but then we need time to make it working.
Yeah,
so
yeah, it's
Yes,
proven quite
yes.
tricky for me anyway. It's just because it's all
It's not-
real
it's
time.
not- it's not
You need a lot
easy.
of computation
Yeah.
power for that resolution. Yeah.
So for us, for intermediate, this is like a certain background, because there are several guys which are working mainly with touch designer. Touch designer is one of the environments which is ready for operating and melting and mixing the stuff. We had several visitors like Miłosz Uczyński from Paris. He's using Module 8, for example, for most of his. Then we are trying also to use jitter with certain extensions.
Yeah, I use
Connected
Unity
by
by the way.
Siphon and all those.
Yeah,
kind
so
of
I make
bridge-
everything in
bridges.
Unity. Do you know Unity? The game engine?
Not in this group.
No. Yeah.
Not at the Academy of Music. We are mostly working with the music.
And-
Yeah, I mean, you can.
And a lot.
Yeah, you can still use a game.
That's we are more to the performative. Performers. Then that's one of the deal. But
Yeah, but the
that one-
performance itself is included in all of these three projects, because now it was like more presentation and theory, but on Friday you can see it also like, you know, they all play live. So I think it will be also interesting for you.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Widzimy się za tydzień. Regularne zajęcia. Bardzo się cieszę z Państwa frekwencji dzisiaj. Jestem bardzo mile zaskoczony. So I'm very happy to see you all today.
Thank you for inviting high frequency. High frequency, to jest different meaning. I am.
No nie, Marku, high frequency, totalnie inne znaczenie.
Yeah, but that's an hour on that.
That is very nice. I like it. By coincidence, we got to say the full group.
Very good.
Yes, very good. I'm very happy.
Did you know about this presentation
No.
in advance? No.
Was it
So you're lucky.
No, I know why, but I don't want to tell you.
Okay.
They wouldn't have promised they knew.
No, we have a very special deal, but that's really great that to have them here. You don't need to go. In fact, you don't need to leave it.
We'll just stay here. Yeah, it's nice. I
Yeah,
like
in
it.
fact that you know they are
The
quite
comfort.
short of the time at the gallery to work.
Yes, yes.
So yeah, at 4 there's again the slot who is coming. You come back with the masters
How long?
to-
How long do you stay? So you are
until Sunday.
Sunday, yeah.
until Sunday.
So every day there are hours.
Saturday.
Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Saturday.
Yeah, because the show is on Friday, right?
Yeah.
The first one.
Exactly, I have a concert in Prague exactly the same time.
Oh, no.
Friday at 7. Tomorrow I'm flying to Prague.
Will be there streaming or some
Okay, let's do
recording?
it streaming. You can take this. Do widzenia.
Yeah.
Do you think, yeah? Yeah, maybe we will do some streaming.
There was quite nice
But if
with
you
the
perform at the same
group.
time.
We have sometimes we are getting quite certain paradoxes. You know, people are coming before the festival, and the festival is so massive they are not able to come for all events. So in the middle of the festival, I say,
It's yours.
wait a minute, you are not present in most of the events. What's going on? Okay, you have a chance either to catch up all the rest.
Yeah.
If you will be present in all the lectures, you don't need to see me afterwards
Yeah.
till the end of the semester. But
That's
they
very
were
good.
unable to catch this chance. So
Yeah.
those are the very nice coincidences. Many years ago, I remember the very special. They just disappeared during the festival. They were not coming for the class, but the lecture are synchronized with the festival, so
Yeah.
they should come, but they are not coming.
Uh-huh.
Can you imagine the people are coming from the city, but not my students? But then I asked after festival, so what do you feel? Did you like something or not? And I see there's like a neutral, no reaction. So I see, oh, so you didn't visit the festival? Mm-hmm.
Are they undergraduate music students?
No, but then one person explained me. When in fact you were so busy, and there were so many events that we were waiting when the festival is over. So that's why you show up. You just show up, which is a little bit like a primary school behavior, a little bit. So this is a little bit like my warning after the story that the well, we have I'm too old to remind you what is the study because I don't like to use it as a school. You have this unique opportunity to come and to be present and I know that you are busy. That's not the problem. But sometimes we should meet together. So I'm not giving them the free pass, for example. In all time I was giving them the free pass and then okay. So now they are on the list.
Yeah, okay.
Whenever they come, that they have a free entrance.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
All right.
It was really great. It was too short.
Thank you. Yeah, for sure.
Too short.
Definitely.
Yeah,
We'll
next
come back.
time we'll make it longer. Anyway, the whole residency should be longer.
Yes.
I'm just preparing the new application for the next year, and I
So
think it should
the
be
website
longer.
is there. So when you go there, you have the link to all sessions, including the festival and which is the easiest way to do
Exactly.
it with this. Okay.
Dzięki, Marku.
No,
Dziękuję.
Było nam
również.
bardzo miło gościć u
Fajnie
Ciebie.
było.
Dziękuję.
Dziękuję.
I rzeczywiście jest taka frekwencja. Miło. No. Słuchaj, to zostawiam te dwa plakaciki sobie gdzieś tam u
Dobra,
liście,
dobra.
gdzie myślisz, że będzie...
To zostawimy, albo
będzie
komuś będzie
sensownie.
przeszkadzać, to sobie zdejmie.
Dobra. Biorę ten program Bokali i przyniosłam, bo chciałam zobaczyć
Koniecznie.
sobie ten AR.
Dobra.
Oczywiście jak jeszcze są więcej, jest ich więcej, jakbyście chcieli to gdzieś tam komuś
No
przedstawić.
mówicie,
to
ja jestem taki też, wiesz. Ale Grzesiu mnie tam o coś pyta, on mnie tak pyta cały czas, że to co w piątek robimy? Ja mówię, no przecież ci mówiłem, a będziesz dzisiaj na Radzie Wydziału? Ja mówię, nie wiem, że mam rezydentów, ty nie wziąłeś, to ja...
No on też jest
co
mega
umie-
zajęty z wszystkiego. Jakaś taka
Ja mu
kulminacja
tak
się zrobiła,
przypominam i
wiesz?
wiesz, i ja mówię, ale to w piątek, bo mam taką studentkę, która chce zrobić w głównej sali na Krzemionka, chce zrobić próby do spektaklu teatralnego. Ja mówię, ale mnie nie ma. Grzesiek, to...
Kulminacja się zrobiła straszliwa, wiesz, jeszcze
Nie
ten
może
koniec
się-
roku
Nie może nie połapać, także ja
Tak.
wczoraj do Artura zadzwoniłem, żeby mu jeszcze raz...
I z Patrycją rozmawiałam w sprawie tych intermediów, więc to ustaliliśmy kafę. Ja mówię, no to idziemy do ciebie. Rozmawialiśmy herbem, mówię,
Dobry?
to idziemy do ciebie. Fajnie. Tak. Super, dzięki wielkie Marku. Nie zabieramy więcej czasu. Szkoda, że nie zobaczymy piątek. Dodatkowego. Dzięki. It's like the group
You are welcome. Anytime you are in the city. Because for example, during the first half of the year, I run the concerts every month on 13th. I remember. If you're in Krakow around 13th, you are welcome on the concert. Today, every Wednesday at 8 o'clock, we have a group lab meeting. And group lab is like an open collective.
Okay.
Okay.
You know the concert, the student concert. This
December.
Ah, I have a piece.
And now I think it's impossible because my home players, they cancel. They said they can't play at that time.
Ah.
Yeah, I'm really sad.
I know situations like that.
Yeah, they told me they have some master class. They don't have enough time to play it. Yeah, and I'm looking for the other. If it's too hurry up to find any new.
Just one thing.
Okay.
So sad.
But what instrument?
Horn.
Horn.
Because
Two horse. Oh.
That's a very big problem.
But did you try to ask some other people?
Yeah, it's too hurry up. It's only 10 days
Okay.
to practice. And my piece is very contemporary, something that there has some risk in the performance. So we have no courage to at the moment. It's really sad and embarrassing. It's really embarrassing.
But maybe, I don't know, but maybe you can do some little changes. Maybe change the piece, maybe to make it maybe not, easier, but maybe more comfortable for player and maybe someone to accept and.
Yeah, I changed it, and things still. If it's they just told me yesterday, and there is only 10 days. If they told me earlier,
Yeah.
there maybe someone will. It's really making me annoyed. They told me they can do it, but now they can't do it.
Yeah, I know it's not.
It's really
It's not good.
upset. This is my first concert here. It's really embarrassing. But I learned a lot from this situation.
My friends had performance parts in other place, and the rehearsal, the piece was so badly played that he didn't agree to play it at the concert because they gave the piece and they didn't prepare it well, and he said that they can't basically show it because it's.
Yeah, my is really, it's a little bit hard. It needs practice. Not, yeah. My professor suggested me to move to another concert and find some much advanced player to play it. Yeah, that's really much possible. And now it's too hurry up to find a new player to do the contemporary technique at 10 days and it's too many risks.
But next time, I hope.
Yeah, I hope it must be performed it's too hurry up. I just finished the piece last month. That's why.
It was enough time.
Yeah, and they didn't tell me at the first. That's the point that make me annoyed because
Yeah,
everything is done.
Sure.
And then I even bought them the special meat for them from Germany. Still, it's really sad.
But who is your professor?
My professor?
Yeah. Ah, okay. Yeah.
So we had a very nice accident. There were three artists from the program Artists in Residence. In fact, we were planning to make the visit in Intermedia, where I teach, but tomorrow I fly, and then on the last moment we found out that perhaps they should join our regular lecture, which was half past 2. But in fact, they have a concert tomorrow, not tomorrow, on Friday at 7 o'clock at Hevre. And Hevre was the main venue of Audios Festival. But what is quite important of the venue is immersive video. There's the only one in Kraków with 10 projectors which surround audience, and the whole space is surrounded by 10 projectors with continuous spheric video. And the program Artists in Residence is a program of another festival which is every year in October. It's called Patch Lab. It's a festival of digital art. And I'm helping them, and this year they open a competition for residences. So they send the call all over the world. They've got 70 different applications, and I was in the jury, and we choose 10 best artists. And there's a second group of artists in residence now in Kraków for 1 week, working with this immersive video in Hevre. And during this stay, they were invited to show the students their work, and they showed the students 2:30. But we decided on Monday, so that was like, okay. There were 3 times there were change. There was like on this Friday, then they're moving on Thursday, and finally we moved to today, to Wednesday, which was the very short notice. And I was hoping that they can stay a little bit longer. Even with us, but they are busy with another schedule now. They have to come back to Hevre now. So that was like a short introduction, and we were streaming it. We are still streaming this.
Yeah, I see.
We'll see whether we are streaming.
Our conversation was recorded. Audio, please.
What? No, don't.
I think it still goes on.
Watching hurts enough.
I didn't realize that it's...
Will I become famous? Embarrassing. I wish my players didn't do it.
Do you have some student concert in a short time or not? Zbliża się jakiś koncert studencki?
Yes.
When?
December.
Before Christmas?
Yeah.
14.
14?
Yeah,
That's great.
I should have.
Are you ready?
No.
With your pieces? Oh, sorry, I didn't say anything.
Okay.
We can stop it. Nie wiem, jak jest inwentaryzacja po angielsku. To najlepiej powiedzieć inventarization.
Zawsze działa, prawda?
Do you know what is inventarization? No. I'm sure that this is not correct. It doesn't exist.